The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. This month's programming is sponsored by Signature Theater, presenting the DC premiere of the untitled, unauthorized Hunter S. Thompson musical. Follow the godfather of gonzo journalism as he barrels through American history in this critically acclaimed new rock musical now through July 13th. Buy tickets now at sigtheater.org. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Rounding out June entertainment includes Ryan Adams on June 28th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The Ohio Players bring their classic funk, soul, and disco tunes to the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on June 21st. I spoke to longtime drummer Jimmy Diamond Williams about recording iconic hits like Fire and Love Roller Coaster. Hey, Jimmy Diamond Williams, drummer of the funk soul classic band, the Ohio Players. Hey, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
As mentioned, the Ohio Players are going to be coming to the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on June 21st, so everybody get your tickets. Have you played the Birchmere before? It's a historic, intimate spot here just outside of the nation's capital. I'm assuming you all have played there before.
You assume correctly. We've been there. We've had several sellouts there, but we've been there maybe 3, 4, 5 times, actually.
But this will be the best time, right?
This will always be the best time, you know? It will always be the best.
I love that spot because you can sit right up next to the band. So, you drumming up close and personal. So you'll be on the drums, but dote on your colleagues, your bandmates there. I mean, who all's in the lineup now? Because I know, Leroy Bonner, rest in peace, Sugarfoot, he died, 2013? It's been a few years now. So who's singing and who all's with you while you're drumming?
Well, Billy Beck, who's the musical director, who's been with the band the next amount of years from myself, and he's been with the band 51 or 2 years. I've been with the band 53. So he's the next one that I would introduce that's dolling around with me.
He was on keys, right? He was been on keys for a while.
He's the keyboard, yeah, and the background vocals, the lead vocalist, as I am the background vocalist with Billy Beck. On the other keys are a guy named Ronald Nooks. We have 2 guitar players, bass and lead. The bass player's name is EQ, Eric Young. The lead guitar player's name is Chris Bowman. Then we have 3 horns from Chicago. Well, 2 from Chicago, 1 from Dayton. The saxophone player's name is Mike Allenby. The trumpet player's name is Kenny Anderson. And the trombone player's name is Johnny Cotton. So that fills the stage.
Love it. Absolutely. And you all together will be combining for some of our favorite, funk, soul tunes, even a little disco in there from back in the day. Do you find that, your hardcore fans that, that were listening to you back then, do you find that they're now coming and bringing their kids or heck, even grandkids at this point? Is it like multiple generations?
Yeah, they have to come and take everybody, man. Buy sandwiches, T-shirts, and do all that stuff. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we have, when we're doing festivals and all that stuff, it's not as many grandkids coming to a Birchmere, as you will can imagine, but,
right.
When we go to festivals and county fairs and all that kind of stuff and outdoor gigs, there's 3, 4 generations of people, a lot of which are new fans that are listening to the shows and the songs for the first time.
I promise you folks, no matter what age you are, you would definitely recognize several of the songs, at least Love Roller Coaster and Fire and maybe even some Hoochie Coo. You'll recognize them because a lot of your favorite artists and hip-hop have sampled and stuff to this day. So you got to come out, folks. And we can do a deep dive into some more of those songs as we go. But I would love to go sort of chronologically, if you could, and sort of paint the journey here. So let's go back to when you were still a diamond in the rough. You were born in Dayton, Ohio in 1950. So paint a picture of your childhood. Like what did your parents do for a living, or what hobbies you had? I want to know, what your childhood was like.
Well, we lived in a log cabin back then, Jason. It was a long time ago. We hunted and we killed everything that we ate, No, I'm just kidding here.
Hey, I just had Buddy Guy on, and he was talking about growing up in like the Depression, and he didn't even know what running water was. So when you said in a log cabin, I believed you for a second.
You was all into that, wasn't you?
You got me. You got me. All right, what was it really like there in Ohio in the 50s?
My dad was the first black bus driver here in the city of Dayton. Okay,
Really?
my mom worked at McCall's, which was a publishing company, both of which had interest in music. My dad played drums a little bit. My mom played all reeds in high school. Anything that had a reed in it, clarinet, bassoon, oboe, double reed, single reed, she played. Saxophone, she played. So my dad was into jazz and jazz artists and loved jazz. He's like a jazz aficionado.
Who were some of his favorites that he would listen to?
Yeah, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, all those guys, Ella Fitzgerald, all those guys, Dizzy Gillespie, he goes on and on, but he was into that and had me into playing jazz. Um, I was, um, I was first, my dad took me on the family to a parade when I was about 3 or 4 years old, Jason, and, I'm sitting on the curb, man, listening to different bands go by, whatever, and all of a sudden the crowd, there was this high school band that was coming by named Roosevelt, and the drums were playing, man, the crowd was just getting excited and just, gyrating around and people dancing, and I'm looking around like, what is going on? And I hear these drums, man, they go into an underpass, and when you go into an underpass, it gets louder because the acoustics get louder underneath the underpass, and so it gets louder, and the band is playing, man. It's like, oh my God, I'm looking around like, this is what I want to do. This is exactly what I want. This right here, I like this. And so I had my mother had an uncle that played double bass, string bass, and he had been in the business, and he was getting ready to leave from playing, touring and whatever. And he wanted to give the double bass to somebody in the family. And my mom said he's going to give it away, and I want you to have it. And she said, so when he comes over, he's coming by the house. She said, when he comes over, he's going to ask you, Jimmy. He's going to say, what do you like? You tell him you like music. He's going to say, what do you want to play? And you say, I want to play bass. Voila, he's going to give you the double bass. It's a beautiful thing. Do you have that, Jimmy? You got it? I said, yeah, Mom. She says, all right, let's go over it during the week. During the week, she asked me several times, Jimmy, you like music? Yeah, Mom, I like music. What do you want to play? Bass, double bass? She said, oh, you got it, So he knocks on the door, Jason. He says, comes in, does a little side, he sees to family and all that stuff, and he says, Jimmy, I hear you like music. I said, yeah. He said, what do you want to play? I said, drums.
So how'd you get your first drum kit then?
Across the head. No.
Well, when they hit your head, that's more of like a hi-hat,
Yeah, that's more like a hi-hat, not more. But yeah, I said that, Jason, my mother I don't know what my mother looked like because I was afraid to look at her at that time, but I got some glares during that week, and then therefore I went, I was in school, I didn't get drums in. I started beating on pots and pans around the house, okay? And, I was too young even to enter school. And when I entered school, they had a music program there, and you could, have instrumental program and all that stuff. And I was in the second grade. You couldn't. No, I was in the third grade. And you couldn't start instrumental music until the fourth grade. But I happened to run into the music teacher in the hallway, and I asked. His name was Mr. Unger. I said, Mr. Unger, can I start music? He said, son. He said, what grade are you in? I said, third grade. He said, what do you want to play? I said, drums. And there must have been a gleam in my eye that he could see the compassion. I wanted to really play drums. He said, okay, I'm going to let you start in the third grade. I said, okay. And he told me, get my music book and get my stuff together, a little practice pad or whatever, and come start playing. And that was the beginning of it. And, started taking private lessons with the band instructor from the high school that I was going to go to. He happened to be a classmate of my mother when she was in high school, and he had become a music teacher of the high school. And so when he became my private teacher. Took 10 years of private lessons, and when I was in the 7th and 8th grade, and I started to march with the high school band.
Like halftime at the football games and stuff like that?
Yeah, like all of that. And I became one of the soloists that when they had concerts, Mr. Unger, which was his name, he would bring out several soloists for the concert, and I became one of the soloists even before I became in high school, and so that's how it really started.
Did you ever get to play in a parade going under an underpass?
Man, many times. I was a drum captain for a drum and bugle corps for 5, 6, 7 years of my life. From the time I was 14, 15 to the time I was 21, I was captain of a large drum and bugle corps. So many underpasses, many parades, many miles that I marched with drums, to a point where I said, I don't even want to walk anymore. I've marched so much in my life. It's like, oh my God. Sweating and doing all that stuff? Yes, I did all of which. I was in an all-city orchestra, all-city band. I got awarded scholarships in the summertime to go to Miami University for a couple of weeks for the best music students in Ohio.
This is Miami of Ohio, not down in Florida, right?
Not down in Florida, Miami of Ohio, yeah. And then I got a full ride to Kentucky State University, and then transferred and went to the University of Dayton for about a year and a half or so before I got drafted to a group called the Ohio Players.
Right before they drafted you to play with the Ohio Players, and I know you weren't there at the time, but I'm sure the band members have passed this story down over the years, but do you know how that original formation came together? Weren't they originally like the Ohio Untouchables with Robert Ward leading, and then they brought in Leroy Bonner Sugarfoot in '67, and that's when they became Ohio Players? Is that basically how it went down?
Your due diligence has served you well, Jason. Yes, that's the way it happened. Okay? Formed in 1959 with Marshall, Pee Wee, Robert Ward, and Satch, and Greg Webster, who was a drummer and the leader of the band before I had my opportunity to play with the band. That's when they started. They changed the name in '67, like you said, '66, whatever time. It's when Sugarfoot got with the band. They changed it to Ohio Players.
And at that point, they had found their signature voice and their signature sound. So, of course, the band does 3 albums before you actually join. They do, their first is Observations in Time in '69. And then in 1972, they do Pain and Pleasure. So that's a 1-2 punch. That's cool album titles. I always thought that was cool. But that lattermost one, Pleasure in '72, had the hit Funky Worm, and it topped the Billboard R&B charts. It crossed over mainstream too. I think it goes to like number 15 on the overall Hot 100 as well. Do you remember hearing Funky Worm on the radio? Is that when you first started tuning in before you joined them? Like, what do you remember? Was that the first one you remember hearing?
Actually, that was me. If you ever saw anybody play Funky Worm on the road, it was me that was playing Funky Worm. When that song came out, in fact, I got a gold 45 on my wall, Jason, for the record company giving it to me for my support of the song. When Funky Worm came out is when I made the changeover and became the Ohio Players drummer. So yeah, I heard that song a lot, playing it. Actually, Jason, after being in college and doing all that music stuff that I did prior, I really didn't like that song when I got the band, Jason. I have to be truthful. I thought it was a novelty song that was just as silly as all get out, okay? This Funky Worm junk, what the heck is this about, you know? I love the song now today, but I certainly hoped at that time that we would play some more sophisticated music, okay? And we did.
So that one took a while to grow on you. And thanks for clarifying, because I was assuming that since it was on the album right before your first full album with them, I was assuming that it was before you, but you're saying they just put that out and you just started touring with them. So a lot of those early concerts, the first time people were hearing that live was actually you on the drums. Thanks for pointing that out.
That's correct. That was me.
And as I alluded to earlier, new generations have probably heard, even if you don't think you know Funky Worm, you've heard at least some of it sampled in various hip hop songs. Like in the early '90s, I think there's a little bit of that in Criss Cross's Jump in '92, and even De La Soul, Me, Myself, and I in the late '80s. I think they might have sampled a little bit too. So that sound has stood the test of time.
Many people have sampled that sound. Many people have sampled that sound to a point where sometimes you don't even know it's there, but it's there.
Yeah, it takes on a life of its own. That Funky Worm is still crawling all over the place. All right, so then as we said, so you join them and you're touring with them, and then I guess your first like full album with the group, I guess, would be Ecstasy in '73. Heck, I even think that song was sampled by Jay-Z and Biggie and Brooklyn's Finest, now that I mention it. But anyway, so you joined for Ecstasy, and then of course that means you're also there for Skin Tight, the fifth album in '74. That's the first one I believe that goes platinum. So I guess maybe that's like the big mainstream like commercial breakthrough for the group. Is that pretty much? Would you consider Skin Tight to be when the band really exploded?
Well, when you write a platinum album, that's an explosion, Jason. Okay. In those days, it was pretty big when you had a platinum album. Now, various people had gold albums, but not too many R&B bands were producing platinum albums.
No, that's the real deal. And I remember REM covered that song Skin Tight years later when I was a kid in the 90s. I think it was on the B side to Stand in the Place Where You Live. But anyway,
Okay.
But anyway, so many examples of the bands of my youth covering your all's and sampling your all's stuff. So that's how we get inspired to go back and check it out. All right, and then so you say Skin Tight goes platinum. The sixth album, Fire, also platinum in '75. That is one of your biggest hits. That title track, Fire, tops the Billboard Hot 100. That is a #1 hit, a staple of there are people dancing to that in discos everywhere. Probably. Can you recall going into discos or dance clubs of the time in '75 and people just getting down to that one?
We were playing in all those places. I didn't really frequent going into them to hang out because that was like going to the job, you know what I mean? But, yeah, it was a great time, man. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that when we were writing the tracks, the rough tracks and doing and we had just the rough tracks with just the instruments on there. And I happened to be hanging out with Stevie Wonder at that time. He was doing the album. We were likewise. And I let Stevie listen to it. I said, what do you think? He said, Diamond, this track is so hot, you could call this thing rocks. You could call it whatever. And when he said it was so hot, that gave us the idea to write and title that song Fire.
Really? So the title Fire came from Stevie Wonder saying it was hot?
It came from Stevie Wonder saying it was hot.
That is freaking awesome. All right. Well, so he gave you the inspiration for the actual title. How about, is there any insight you can give us, musically of any memories of recording it in the studio or any cool, like, making of stories in terms of, like, the instrumentation of it?
Of Fire?
Yeah.
No, we were just trying to come out with some interesting tracks. Generally when you come out with a track, sometimes we'd have a direction, but normally it would be just some jamming. And then therefore going back listening to it saying, what does it sound like? And sometimes we would, after which, having a title to the album, we would have various songs that were related to that subject matter. But yeah, it's just about jamming, man, just jamming and playing and see what grooves sound good,
Absolutely. Well, if it sounded good to you guys, it was sounding good to everyone out in the public because you guys were on fire at that point. You get your third straight platinum album with your next one, Honey, also in '75. That's probably your most iconic album because it has your biggest, most famous, recognizable hit with Roller Coaster of Love. Love Roller Coaster. I'll get to the urban legend behind that in a second because I need to set that record straight. But first of all, similar to what you just said for Fire, like behind the scenes, putting it together, like which one of you all put the seeds for those lyrics down first? Was it you? Was it Sugarfoot?
Well, Sugarfoot was the lyric guy. He was a daggone walking thesaurus, okay? But we would always have to, Billy Beck and myself would add the background vocals and all that stuff. And Roller Coaster is a very interesting track because it has two hooks. It does not have any verse, Jason. If you listen to it, there's no verse.
Yeah, the structure is unique.
You know what I mean? It's real crazy. And we purposely, because Firehead went pop before Honey album came out, and we purposely say, because like we wrote Fire, it was a funk track. It was a soul track. It's funky, the groove. But we wrote Roller Coaster purposely for a pop hit, and that was some of the things that we had in our mind as when we said, when Skin Tight went platinum, we said, daggone, if we write 3 platinum albums in a row, we should be on Easy Street. I haven't seen that street yet, Jason. I'm still looking for it, but we purposely wrote 3 platinum albums in a row. If we had said at that time that if we had written 10, I might not be in the place I'm in today, but we purposely wrote and had an idea of writing Roller Coaster for the purpose of having a pop hit, and it worked out well.
Yeah, to say the least. It worked out very, very well. And as I teased a second ago, an urban legend sprung from that song. And there's all these teenagers on the playground be like, hey, did you know that that scream in the background was someone being murdered live in the studio? But it was actually keyboardist Billy Beck, the guy that you mentioned, who's doing like background vocals, right? So how did that myth actually take off? Was it like a DJ somewhere making a wisecrack and you guys just kind of went with it because controversy sells?
Yeah, this is before podcasts where people like you started. This is other people saying crazy stuff and all that stuff. And yeah, we heard about it and we just let it go, man. It was like wildfire. You know what I mean? People running up, people looking at us strange. It's like, what is all this about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People, when we come by, people split in hallways and let us walk by and not be near us and whatever. It's like, what's going on? They say, well, we heard a woman got killed and all that. So, well, we haven't been arrested yet. That's all I know. It's like, I don't know what y'all talking about. We just kind of let it go up in the air. And I think it sold quite a few records doing it that way, Jason.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like, oh, if you play Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz, like there's different urban legends that take off with music, or what is it? You play the Beatles backwards and it says Paul is dead or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes these things take a life of their own. And so after that, clearly it's an urban legend, but after that you're like, oh, that's a good idea. And on your next album, you really whack somebody. I'm just kidding.
It's right. It's right. Only you don't hear them.
Yeah, exactly. Because when it really happens, they don't make a sound.
Yeah.
We're kidding, of course. But anyway, it's an iconic song. Love Roller Coaster. And Honey, by the way, before we move off of Honey, that album also had Sweet Sticky Thing, talking about, moving on from more sophisticated stuff from Funky Worm, right? Sweet Sticky Thing. That is very highbrow.
Yeah, man, that's highbrow. I tell you, I Want to Be Free starting with the drums is a different arrangement of songs too, Jason. You have a slow song, a ballad, that starts out with drummers beating the heck out of them, and it's like, this is very unusual. Which is a great record likewise. I Want to Be Free.
Absolutely. And then maybe time for one more, because we really don't have time to go through all the albums, because do Rattlesnake next, and then but let's do one more. Let's do the 8th album, Contradiction, in '76, because Who'd She Coo, and it's spelled, folks, WHO''D, she coo, but we know what it kind of sounds like. It's like topping sort of the hot soul charts and stuff, and it's pretty big. I think it goes to number 18 on the Hot 100, like mainstream stuff too. But that's the one that's like, everybody, people are gonna remember. Any cool insights you can have on putting that together? You said Sugarfoot was still the lyricist, I'm assuming, on that one, but where does your drumming come in? Where do you get the idea for the drum part?
I don't know, man. It's just a crazy part. It's like a daggone gut bucket type track. But I tell you, on the Contradiction album, the song Contradiction is very unusual. It's a very unusual title. The musicality within the song is different, going from one music genre to another one with the dun 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 and then dun 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 into the little jazz part in the middle. It's a very unusual song. Contradiction is a very unusual word to write a song about. But it's also apropos to where we are today. Everything seems to be a contradiction. When somebody tells me the truth is not the truth, there's a contradiction, Jason. When you tell me the way to have peace and love is taking a daggone bomb and shooting people and kill it, there's a contradiction. And so the world is in that particular state right now. And peace songs we wrote that have a meaning that were written prior to its time period. And the time is always here, for contradiction, because that's exactly what the world is in.
Thank you for saying that. It's sort of like, I guess the Temptations, it's a ball of confusion a couple years before. Contradiction is sort of like your all's version of, pointing out some of the it's a social commentary kind of a track, and it's speaking to where we are now, I guess. So you're writing Contradiction, I guess that's right after Watergate, and so you're saying that you're starting to see some contradictions and hypocrisies then, and man, tack on 50 plus years and all the nonsense that's happened over the last 10, 15 years. Man, we need you to come here to Birchmere. We need you to hear in the DC area, because you got to set some stuff straight, man. This town's gone nuts.
Yeah, but I'm not the one that's going to set it straight, Jason. I'm the one that's going to burn it up. I'm the one that's going to light a fire to it. I'll tell you what.
Fire.
Yeah. It's too late to, straighten it up. It's like we're off the tracks, man. When you're off the tracks, you have to put that mug back on the tracks. It ain't no straightening up. It's just about, let's fix it,
Yeah, that roller coaster is off the tracks.
Yeah, that roller coaster's off the track.
I'm ready to get off of this roller coaster, by the way. The ups and downs of the last couple political cycles and January 6th and everything else, man. I don't want to ride this roller coaster anymore.
Well, see, it's not a love roller coaster, Jason. This is the roller coaster we are right now. It's not a love roller coaster, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, if you ride a love roller coaster, you'll enjoy the ride a lot.
Yes, love roller coaster.
Very much enjoy that ride, okay?
That's somewhat of a segue into, I wanted to ask sort of about the visual design of your albums. That's sort of a segue from love roller coasters. But it was your album covers, how should we say? They were a little erotic, some models on there. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, the thinking was is that we wanted people to look at our album cover. If you look at the album cover, you might take it home and listen to it. But we're going to grab your eye on the shelf by what we put on that cover. And it worked very well. We were crusty-looking guys that had no appeal other than being instrumentalists. And so we were in Chicago. We did most of the albums in Chicago, along with being in L.A. and a few other places. But in Chicago, they had a Playboy Club, and we were in there a bit. And of course, they had beautiful models that were in there, and we had that idea that we would use some of these models on our album cover, starting with Skin Tight. Now, we had a history from Pain on the Westbound albums that they had certain models on their album likewise. Pat somebody was her name. I can't think of her last name, but she was one of the models that was on the Westbound album. So they had a history of women being on there. It's just that when Skin Tight came out, because their thing was using a bald-head woman, which was a little bit different on the album, and to see that on the album. And they would have different kind of, I know on the Pain album, they had, on one of the albums, they had a knife going in somebody's back. You remember that one, Jason? I can't remember what that was, but we didn't want to go that far with the sadistic look of that thing, because it was about pain or whatever. And so with Skin Tight, I mean, come on, what does that mean? Skin Tight. I remember taking that album home to my dad, Jason. Skin Tight album was the second album of mine. And I'm coming in the house talking to my mom and dad. I got this big afro, and I got the album cover or whatever. And I show it to my dad. My dad's eyes pop up like, what in the heck are you doing? And then I open it up, and my face is next to this derriere of this woman, this model. My face is right next to her butt, I'll say. And my dad said, did I send you to college to do this, son? Is this what I sent you to college for? It's like, yeah, Dad, just listen to the album. He loved the album, but it was during a period of time it was kind of risque,
Yeah, man, it's the 70s, man. All bets are off at that point, right?
Yeah, I told my dad, I said, Dad, you go to museums. I haven't been to many, but if you go to museums, they have things quite similar, with the daggone statues and all that stuff. And so it got by. And we were never at the Hustler magazine level, I'll tell you that, not to say anything discredited, but we were always at the Playboy level, and it was always kind of classy.
Yeah, you made your parents proud.
I sure did. I bought him a car, too, Jason. I bought him a car, too.
You bought him a car? What kind?
Yeah. At that time, my dad wanted a Monte Carlo, so I bought him a brand new Monte Carlo.
Oh, wow. All right, so he put up with a few risque album covers if he got a car out of it, right?
Yeah, he put up with a few of them.
I love it. Awesome. And then, just sort of bringing it in a little more contemporary years, the last decade or so, 2013 is kind of a bittersweet year because you lose Leroy Bonner. As I said, Sugarfoot dies in 2013, the lead singer, the voice. But you're also inducted in the first inaugural class of the Rhythm and Blues Music Hall of Fame in Cleveland. So you feel like, all right, well, on the one hand, we're getting validated by going in this brand new R&B Hall of Fame, but you also lose your lead singer. So that's got to be sort of the end of an era and the beginning of another in terms of y'all touring, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, Satch died in 1995. Was the first of which. Pee Wee died in 96. And in 95, of course, we were still all alive. And when that happened, it was like, there'll be no more putting this thing back together, not all of us. So that was like a period, ending of a period with me that I remember, knowing that the seven guys or the nine at that time would never be back originally to play anything else or to create anything else again. But yeah, subsequently after that, we've lost, Satch and Pee Wee, Marshall, the bass player, and Sugarfoot. We've also lost Clarence Willis about 3-4 weeks ago, the guitar player that I've been with since daggone high school. Jason, Chet and I had played in a band called the Majestics in the Overnight Low, and then a band that was called Overnight Low turned into a group called the group Sun. So I had been in with Chet quite a while, and he's gone and transitioned on likewise. So people are coming and going around here so quick, Jason, I can hardly keep up with them.
Oh, that's so sad. Well, rest in peace to Chet too, and all the others you mentioned. Man, that's got to be. I guess when you're playing music for that long, that's a sad part of life. You're gonna lose more band members than you want to, man. Well, I don't know how we segue out of that. That's depressing. So we got to somehow bring it back up and get them fired up for the show. But I think the way we do it is, at the top, you teased all the great band members now, so they're carrying the legacy on, right? They're doing all your late great friends proud, right? The new guys are carrying the legacy on strong, right?
Listen, there would be no reason for us to be out here if it wasn't for the public being behind us and supporting us. For 53 years, I can say that, man. The time that they take to come out to our show, I tell people at the show all the time, the money that you spend is one thing. You'll get that back. Hopefully, money comes and goes, but the time that you spent with us will never come again. And that's so appreciative of our audience and our supporters. And that's what keeps us out here. I'm old enough that I've seen a lot of things in life, but I'm still young enough to appreciate people that love our music and give me the support, and that's why we continue to keep going. The music and the musicality and the songs and the memories are what we're happy about that we have created for people, and I like to call ourselves pharmacists of the soul, Jason. That's the phrase that I've used and created, because we write music is for the soul. You don't write music for the flesh. You write music, the flesh dances, but the soul feels it. And so we're pharmacists of the soul. When you come out to see our show, as they are at the Birchmere, they'll come out and they'll say, Diamond, will you write me a prescription? I'm trying to get rid of somebody. Write me a script if I want to be free. And I play it for them so they can feel that I'm free now. When they come to our show, they say, hey, man, remember the time when, everything was going right? We had a beautiful lady wearing them hot pants and skirts and skin tight stuff. We write that script right out for them. Let me write you a script for skin tight, So, we have a purpose, and we love the fact that people continue to support what we do.
Absolutely. And they will support it there at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on June 21st. Final seconds. I do want to say, this is a good way to wrap it up. People do look to you as one of the best to ever do it on the drumsticks. Like, what was it? Rolling Stone. In 2016, I guess it's like almost 10 years ago now, but Rolling Stone ranked you on its 100 greatest drummers ever. I think you were in like number 72, right behind Butch Trucks and Tommy Ramone. Numbers don't matter because a ranking is subjective. What is 72 versus 2? Who knows? But overall, how cool is it that you're considered one of the best to ever do it, man?
You know what? That is one of the, one of the most surprising days that I've ever had in this music business. Of course, I heard about the Rolling Stones, that their list of top 100 drummers of all time. And so I get the article and I'm reading it. And of course, I start reading from the back, 100 counting down, hopefully, wanting to see my name as part of which. And so I'm in the hundreds and 90s, and Jason, I go to the 80s, and so, oh man, are you kidding me? I go up to 70s, I get to 75, it's like, oh man, I get to 72, and my name appears on my face. It's like, glory, hallelujah, there is a God. There is a God. I was so happy because my mom and dad had already passed away, and my dad passed when I was 36 years old. My mom passed in 2004, and I was just so happy because they weren't here, but I knew in my spirit that they could feel that all the things that they did to support me in my career, my music career, it comes to fruition. And so I was elated the fact that I was part of that establishment.
Absolutely. It says so much about your abilities, and they would have been proud. I'm sure they were smiling down from beyond at their son, one of the 100 greatest drummers of all time.
Yep.
That just sparked another question for me. Who would you put in that class? Like, who are your goats as far as drummers? And you can't say yourself.
Yeah. I'm from old school, so I like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich, and I like Buddy Miles too, and drummers like that. Of course, the modern drummers, I like Johnny Blackwell. He used to play with Prince. I like, quite a few drummers that are out there today, but, things have increased in people's abilities, and music has increased. The ones that are still playing real music, Jason, and the ones that are not programming, I have a lot of appreciation for.
Absolutely. Well, come see some real music, real live instruments at the Birchmere as the Ohio Players. Jimmy Diamond Williams on the drums and all the rest of them. We're going to be bringing all the great hits we went through and more at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on June 21st. So get your tickets now. Diamond, this was a diamond of a conversation. I really, really appreciate it. I had so much fun chatting with you.
Well, I appreciate you calling me. I'll tell you what, Jason, the last time we were at the Birchmere, when we walked on that stage, I can remember it like it was yesterday. When we walked on the stage, there was a hush across the audience, like they expected and were expecting something spectacular and special. And when we left that stage that night, it was very similar. It's like we have accomplished our feat tonight. We laid these people out. We blasted this place open. And but just the feeling that we had when we walked on that ramp stage, I'm looking forward to that feeling again, Jason. I am. I'm so much looking forward to it. I started calling the Birchmere a couple months before we go. I can tell you the seats that were purchased a month ago and how many were purchased.
Really?
Yeah, I do, Jason. So I can, as of last week, I can tell you how many seats were bought. I check on them because I love that place. I think it's a fantastic place, and I'm looking forward to it. And this band is looking so much forward to playing there again. We can't wait.
Well, we can't wait to have you here, right here on the doorstep of the nation's capital there in Alexandria, Virginia. This is your chance to see one of the top 100 drummers of all time, everybody. And we appreciate you taking time with us here today. We really, really do.
Well, thank you very much. I used to spend a lot of time in the D.C. area, Washington, D.C. My mother's brother was the police chief of Washington, D.C. for years.
Really? So your uncle, what was his name?
His name was Charles Rogers, and he was the warden of the Lorton Federal Penitentiary in Virginia. So I used to spend a lot of time in D.C. I love that. I love that city. I love the surrounding area. Man, went to all the museums and all that stuff my father drug us through all that stuff. Now, he wasn't a jazz aficionado. He was daggone historian. So he read the Encyclopedia Britannica. He didn't read magazines. He read the daggone encyclopedias. So it was like a candy store, D.C. was, with all the stuff that he could take us to see. It was miserable to us, Jason, growing up, okay? Going from one place to another. Gettysburg and this place and that place. I used to hate that. But I did go to a few parades here, Jason, that I enjoyed, okay?
Would your parents be like, hop in, we're all getting in the car and we're driving from Dayton, Ohio to D.C. or Gettysburg? Like it was like long road trips?
Oh, Jason, 14, 16 hours back then. Are you kidding? Yes, long road trips, man. And we did it, I don't know, growing up. Like I said, this is my mother's brother. So we must have did it six times or so, maybe more than that, Jason.
Wow.
Going to D.C. and hanging out for a couple of weeks at a time. So I'd have time to hang out with my cousins and know a little bit about the city and go check out some drummers and parades and all that kind of junk. And it was just great. So I love the area, and we're looking forward to coming back, man.
Any family members still in the area that might swing on up to the Birchmere?
Oh, yeah. My cousin still lives there. And, first cousin still lives there, and the rest of them moved out. But, yeah, I still have family around there.
All right. Well, maybe you'll look out in that audience at Birchmere, and you'll see some familiar faces, we hope.
I did the last time I was there. I expect to this time.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I really do. And some of my favorite moments were just, chatting it up with you on the cell phone and arranging this just off the record. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate that, Jason. Life's too short.
It really is. But your music is forever. All right. Be well.
You too as well.
See ya.
See ya.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.